Do you dream of fairies and princesses? Then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and today on the show, my friend Derek is joining me to discuss the Walt Disney World episode of Boy Meets World for the return of PrimeTime at the parks. We take a look back at this classic TGIF sitcom to discuss what did and didn't make sense as far as how the show portrayed Walt Disney World. We also discuss the nostalgia of it all and whether or not this Disney episode makes sense within the world of Boy Meets World. All of that is coming your way right after this. If you grew up with the sitcom Boy Meets World, you surely know the character of Mr. Feeney. That character was portrayed by actor William Daniels, and right now you can get the free audiobook, There I Go Again, How I Came to Be Mr. Feeney, John Adams, Dr. Craig, Kit, and many others by actor William Daniels. To get your free copy of this audiobook, simply visit audibletrial.com/DCTC. This is just one among many thousands of free audiobook options you can find at audibletrial.com/DCTC. After all, Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. With Audible, you can download titles and listen offline, anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets, and you can listen across devices without losing your spot. So head on over to audibletrial.com/DCTC to claim your free audiobook today. Whether it's the William Daniels book, a Disney title, or any other topic of conversation you desire, you can get it for free at audibletrial.com/DCTC. That's audibletrial.com/DCTC.
Don't touch that remote, because you're tuned into PrimeTime at the parks.
Derek, you are here, you are back on Disney Coast to Coast, but this is the first time ever we are stuck in a closet together recording the show next to each other.
Yeah, this is a first for me.
We are where you normally record your show. I am in Tennessee.
That's true. Welcome to my recording studio.
Yes, it's lovely with your wardrobe surrounding us. And
yep.
Yes, this is the quietest space you have, so this is where we record. So this is fun, exciting, and exhilarating. And we're here for the return of PrimeTime at the parks, which I haven't done in a very long time. And you selected the show.
Yeah, I selected Boy Meets World, and can I say I was so excited that you invited me to be on PrimeTime at the parks, because these are some of my favorite episodes to listen to.
I wish you had mentioned that sooner. I obviously would have had you on sooner. But regardless, we got one of your favorite shows, Boy Meets World. This episode aired on May 10th, 1996. It was called The Happiest Show on Earth. It was episode 321, which means it's season 3, episode 21. You can catch it on
Disney Plus.
That's right. It's right there. And you are a Boy Meets World fan, or you were when it was on, right?
Right. I'm not the type of person who goes back and rewatches shows, but during its original run, every Friday night I was in front of that TV, or on Saturday was watching what we had taped off of TV onto our VHS tape.
Right, and these are the days of TGIF, which was like must-see TV when you were a kid back then. It was fantastic. I gotta say, Boy Meets World's one of those shows, I was totally the right age. I totally watched like all of, or most episodes, but it wasn't one of my favorites. I was like a step-by-step Family Matters kid, so I know these characters well, but they're not my absolute favorite. But I had a really fun time going back and watching this.
Oh, good.
And I kind of remembered little pieces of it. For folks who are listening to this PrimeTime at the Park segment for the first time, we basically look at TV shows, sitcoms, and such that spend some time in a Disney park and discuss it. One of our favorite things is discussing things that make zero sense whatsoever just because of the layout of the park or whatever it may be. So this was full of stuff like that. But let's start with a basic premise of the episode. What was the episode kind of about? What was going on in the world of Boy Meets World?
As soon as it kicked in, I totally remember this season. Season 3, fans will remember that this is finally when Corey and Topanga got together, and for most of the season, they were dating, And then I guess they sort of lost that spark, and they were noticing that a lot of other couples seemed more lovey-dovey, and they were like, maybe we're just not right for each other. And you could tell that they both believed they were right for each other, but out loud they were saying what they thought the other person wanted to hear, so they broke up. And in this episode that we're talking about, Corey realizes, no, I want Topanga back. At the beginning of the episode, Topanga finds out she wins an essay contest, wins a trip to Walt Disney World, and Corey realizes the only way he's going to get her back, don't know why he came to this conclusion, but the only way was if he chases her to Walt Disney World and tells her what's on his heart while they're there.
Yes, because that's the thing that makes most sense.
Yes. Heaven forbid you wait until she comes back and you just have a conversation.
You know what? I will justify one thing with that, though. I do like the fact that the writers added a line right before she gets ready to leave to Orlando, and he's like, you know what? Let me talk to her before she goes, and maybe we can settle this whole thing so I don't have to go through this. They actually, added a line like that, and then, of course, there's a misunderstanding and he has to go anyway. But I was like, at least the writers were smart to, recognize this is ridiculous.
Right. It's almost one of those things where you could see the whole episode's done, it's wrapped, and then they're like, but wait, why couldn't he just have a conversation? And then real last minute, they added that scene.
So the first glimpse we really get of Walt Disney World is in Corey's nightmare. We see Topanga and another boy on Dumbo. It's always the iconic attraction. Dumbo, I think, is worked into every single TV show that goes to a Disney park. It's just super iconic. So...
Yeah, it's easy to shoot. It instantly brings you into those Disney feels.
It's actually funny, though. You say it's easy to shoot. It's probably one of the more difficult things to shoot.
You think so? The cameraman just gets in the next elephant?
I guess. I mean, it's a rig. I mean, rigging up a vehicle. It would be easier to be on a, Main Street vehicle or something. Not the easiest, not the most difficult, I guess, but super iconic imagery.
Did you recognize the other person in his nightmare?
Yeah, I don't know the actor's name, but I know him. I always think of the movie 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yes, that was my first thought, too.
Yeah.
I looked him up, Andrew Keenan. Apparently, he was also in an episode of Step by Step, Full House, so he made his way around that ABC family.
He was totally part of our childhood, and I remember that movie Camp Nowhere. Do you remember this movie?
I know of it.
You've never seen it?
No.
So good. Christopher Lloyd is great in that. You should see Camp Nowhere sometime.
Okay,
it's very,
adding
very
it to my list.
So yes, he's done a lot of stuff, and that's the introduction of Walt Disney World in the episode. When we finally get to the resort for real, we get this kind of resort montage, but this is very Epcot-centric. And the thing that was interesting was in this montage of, different images, it was mostly Epcot, but Cinderella Castle was thrown in there because it's like, well, this is the thing everybody knows. And, these shows are being aired to people who haven't necessarily been to the parks, so they feel like they can get away with a lot. But, when people like us are watching it, you can't get away with it. And it's always kind of funny to see. And we first go to the Living Seas.
Yeah.
Aw, nostalgia.
Yeah, I mean, other than the signage, it still felt pretty much the same what we saw.
Yeah, it's the entrance that, of course now it's known as the Seas with Nemo and Friends. And you get none of the characters. It's just very, science-y, old-school Epcot. And that's where we start, and we actually see them above the water tanks, kind of in a behind-the-scenes tour. Now, she won an essay writing an environmental paper for school, so this was kind of a science-y sort of trip, and they were showing them the sea life and stuff, and I don't know.
Good catch. I actually didn't realize it was an environmental essay. I missed that.
Yeah. It was an environmental essay.
Oh, nice tie-in.
Yeah. So, and they did a pretty decent job with the reasoning of why they were going to Walt Disney, because it felt really forced at the beginning. We're like, okay, let's see who's going to Walt Disney World, who won this thing. And I was like, what?
Well, I assume you noticed that he called it Walt Disney World.
Well, of course.
Yeah, I mean,
mad respect.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's funny is getting ahead a little bit, but we don't see them other than in the nightmare where they ride Dumbo, and other than a small moment we'll talk about later that was weird. You don't really see them riding rides. Mostly you see this kind of stuff with the dolphins. So I thought that was an interesting route that they took.
Yeah, one of the things that we see so much with these primetime at the park sort of things is that the episodes feel like a commercial for the resort.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that at all.
No, MGM wasn't even featured.
That was the thing that shocked me, and that's why I was like, I need to look up when this aired, and it was 1996. I was like, holy moly, Disney MGM Studios had been open at that point for 7 years. That's nuts to me that we see nothing from Disney MGM Studios Especially that being the newest park, you'd think that would be the one they want to promote. But Epcot worked into their storyline, so like I respect that. I think that's cool, but very shocking.
Right. I expected at least a shot of Sunset Boulevard since it was so new at the time.
Yeah, very, very, very weird. So, that's right. Sunset would have only been like 2 years old at that point. Interesting. So yeah, they're at the Living Seas for a good portion of it. You know, it actually made me think, every time I go to the Seas with Nemo and Friends and see the aquariums and stuff, I'm always like, I'm gonna get my license to scuba dive. I'm gonna swim in these tanks. I never have.
Okay, so here's the thing I had to look up because I see them observing the dolphins, and I'm like, can you do this? Is this a thing?
My guess is there's probably a tour at this point, right?
There is a tour. It's called Epcot Seas Adventures Dolphins in Depth, and it costs $199 for 3 hours. But yeah, you get to talk to the expert trainers and researchers, and I had no idea that was a thing then and is still a thing.
Okay, here's the thing. I don't know if it was in 96 necessarily. It did feel like something that was slightly made up for the episode. I could be wrong. Maybe it was available way back then. But at the very least, like, they were a special student group is kind of like how I accepted it within the story.
Yes. So even if there wasn't a tour, it would still make sense in the context of the show. But I was just surprised to find out you can do that.
Yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's one that interests me. Did you get to ride the dolphins in that tour? Did you happen to read?
Ride them?
Yeah, you never ride a dolphin before?
I don't think.
Really? It's like a thing.
That. Really? Well, this doesn't say that.
Oh,
it just says you get to talk to the trainers.
Okay, not as exciting as riding a dolphin.
Clearly.
Yeah, you've never seen video of people where you hold onto the fin and they go and just drag you along?
Like on Happy Days or something? Or in
no,
real
like
life?
in real life.
No, that's amazing.
You can do this in like tropical vacations everywhere.
I feel like PETA would be all over that.
Oh, we're looking this up on YouTube when we're done. Yeah,
clearly.
No, it's fun.
Second guest star of the episode, did you notice who the trainer was? Did you?
Oh, I didn't.
It's Heidi from Home Improvement.
Is it really?
Yes, as soon as I saw her, I'm like, girl, you don't know anything about dolphins. Get out of here.
Do you know what time it is? It's dolphin time. That's funny. I didn't catch that one. There were some weird cameos in this episode. So that was funny. Now, at this point, is this when they break in? Or no, Corey and Sean, that's a little bit later. But something happens that I'm wondering if you caught. Do you remember what Sean said about Walt Disney World and where he was and what he called it? He called it the...
Oh, I have no idea.
Happiest place on Earth.
Oh, he's getting them mixed up.
He's getting them mixed up. It is the most magical place on Earth. I am wondering when Disney differentiated the happiest place on Earth is Disneyland, the most magical place on Earth is Walt Disney World. And also, like, I know that those are like the official things. I don't know when they decided that. So, but in any case, I heard Sean say that and was like, do your research. But, and to be fair, he of that character wouldn't know that necessarily.
That's true. Someone caught it, I'm sure, and said, but you know what, Sean, he wouldn't know that.
I doubt somebody caught it because it's amazing what gets by the lawyers on these things. It's crazy to me.
Well, speaking of, I think that brings us to a moment where they're waiting in line. Is that next?
Oh, the churro thing?
Yeah.
No, well, before that,
okay,
when they're looking for Topanga, and they're like, where is she? She could be anywhere. And she drives by in a golf cart?
Yeah.
Okay, I've never seen a golf cart on stage at a Disney park.
Oh, you know what? Now that you say on stage, I agree with that. But a lot of the VIP guides and stuff will put them in 15-passenger vans or golf carts or things like that.
They were driving through the park by the Fountain of Nations.
Yeah, they were basically at the entrance. Yeah, that's a no-no.
So I was like, no. But next you mentioned maybe I ruined it a little. Did I ruin it?
No, go ahead. What you said was, it's amazing the things that Disney lets through. And in this particular scene, there's a huge crowd of people, shoulder to shoulder. Corey is complaining because they've been waiting in line for, quote, over half an hour for this ride. And Sean said, what are you talking about? This isn't a ride. And as they get to the front of the line, you realize they're waiting for a churro. And my thought was, does Disney want people thinking, oh my gosh, it's 30 minutes just to get a churro? Do I want to go to this place? Yeah,
so that's interesting point number one. And then interesting point number two is you kind of think to yourself, well, that's a bit of an exaggeration. And then I thought to myself, not really when you think of like, not for a regular everyday churro, but specialty food in the parks do have insane lines like that, more than 30 minutes sometimes. So at first thought I was like, oh, that's a little silly. And then I was like, actually kind of accurate, which is scary.
Yeah, that's not a bad point. I think the only inaccuracy was how everyone was just in a not single file line, but just a crowd of people. And some looked like they weren't even in line for the churros. So I think this was just a side effect of filming in a park and having to shuttle people to a certain area.
Sure. Yeah, but you're right. It's weird that Disney isn't like, there must have been a point where Disney got much more strict about these things, right? Because we know them as a company these days that really control their image and work hard at that. And some of these older shows we're watching, I think even in Full House, there were a bunch of these Primetime at the Parks. I'm like, I can't believe they accepted that and allowed that. Like, in Full House, I remember Steve dressed as Aladdin or something, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like they're letting other characters play these characters. I don't know, it's weird to me. So that was one point.
Yeah, that's not the Disney we know today.
No,
right.
not at all.
Yeah.
1996, a little different.
Yep.
A little different. So we go back to the Dolphins, and the tour guide, as you said, from Home Improvement, very honest tour guide. This was another thing that I was like, oh, this is kind of like not Disney magic sort of thing. And, when you take those behind the scenes tours, yes, they give you a bit of an inside look that's, maybe a peek behind the magic, but they're still very protective of that image. So when she was talking about this sick dolphin and this dolphin won't eat because she's sad and all this stuff, I was like, they would never give this story on a behind the scenes tour. Not gonna happen.
Disney dolphins are way happier than that, Heidi.
Exactly. So I actually thought that was really funny. I was like, not quite. Not gonna happen. What was next? Anything in that realm you want to talk about?
Not in that realm, but can we just talk about, in general, the plot of this episode? Because the more I think about this, it makes total sense that Topanga and her fellow winners get this all expenses paid trip. And we find out in the episode that Corey and Sean get the tickets from Sean's rich uncle.
Who it sounds like is in the mafia or something.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Where are they staying?
Well, they know place because later in Splash Mountain, they slept in Splash Mountain.
That's one night.
Yeah.
Also, this is one of those episodes that a lot of people talk about where there are so many sitcoms and other TV shows you could not do today because cell phones would solve half the dilemmas they find themselves in, and this is totally one. He has to go to this enormous 3-park resort to find one specific person when you could just text her and say, girl, where are you? Where are you at? Yeah,
but, I mean, if they wanted to, if they wanted to do that episode today, they'd just show her looking at her phone and be like, oh, him, and, not respond.
Okay, that's fair.
There's always the dead battery, there's the bad reception, and there's the I don't want to respond to you excuses, which is essentially how we write around those things these days.
That's fair. Or she's on a school trip, no phones allowed.
There we go. That's another one. You're on a behind-the-scenes tour. Disney's taking that away. You cannot video this.
True.
There we go.
Okay.
We worked around it.
I feel better.
Okay, cool. So, no, at this point now, Sean and Corey crash this behind-the-scenes tour because they're with these dolphins for a while. I think even multiple days, it seems like. And Corey and Sean are like, I hope we find her here. It's the last place. She has to be here. I'm like, yeah, backstage, hanging up above the tanks at Epcot, and you just walk into the room?
I thought that too. I have been to Epcot how many times, and I've never seen the area that they filmed this in, and yet Corey and Sean just kind of stumbled into it.
Yeah, that was impossible.
Right.
Let's just say security, whoever was working security throughout this episode, fired is what I would say about that. Now this is special. We get a shot of Spaceship Earth, and then what do we cut to? We cut to Sean and Corey sitting in a log in Splash Mountain.
With all the other empty logs lined up behind them because it's clearly after hours.
Yeah, and, okay, so this is like the misdirection of, Splash Mountain is not in Epcot. Any good Disney fan knows this. Like, they totally did not, like, they showed Spaceship Earth right before cutting to that.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
I didn't put that together. In my mind, it was like, well, this is much after the dolphin scene. But I didn't get the cutaway.
Yeah, no, the cut was Spaceship Earth. It's Splash Mountain. I'm like, alrighty, that's an interesting choice.
Well, this is what I mentioned earlier. Other than Dumbo, this is the only ride featured, which just surprises me because I'm thinking of the Modern Family episode, which every other line was a reference to a ride at the parks, and this show just did not seem concerned with that.
Yeah, it is interesting. Some of the episodes are very much concerned more about the story, and others are more about being a commercial. And I don't know, it's interesting. I always wonder, this is something, I doubt, it's not usually a situation where the writers in the room are like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to do a Walt Disney World episode? It's like ABC calling and say, hey, time to promote the parks, write a Walt Disney World episode. I don't care how you make it fit, just do it. And so I'm sure some writers' rooms probably have Disney nerds like us in it who are like, yes, we're going to do this. We're going to make it awesome. Whoever wrote The Big Bang Theory, like, there were some diehard Disney fans on that show. The amount, they never went to the parks as it was CBS, not ABC, but the amount of Disney park references on that, Disneyland, DCA, all of it. So much. In fact, I've seen every episode of The Big Bang Theory. It was hard to get through it all, but I often thought, I'm going to go back through sometime and like make a list of all of the Disney references. If anybody knows a resource that has done this already, please let me know, because I will never do it. I cannot sit through 12 more years of The Big Bang Theory.
You're blowing my mind right now, because I've always watched these episodes thinking the cast and crew must have had so much fun coming up with this. But now for the first time, I'm in the shoes of the writers, and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? We're almost done with the season. We have a plot in mind, and you're making us go to a random theme park that doesn't fit at all.
I mean, who knows how far in advance they're told this? They might be told at the beginning of the season, hey, prepare for this. But, the way showbiz works, a lot of times it's just last minute stuff. So it's, it's interesting, and they do what they can. And the thing that surprises me, I get it, some writers' rooms just may not care about the Disney parks or have much knowledge about them. The thing that always blows my mind is the Disney lawyers who clearly have to approve these scripts and the stuff that they get away with, like calling it the happiest place on earth if that's not what it is, or whatever it may be. I don't know, it's always just so shocking to me. So this Splash Mountain thing, from Epcot to Splash Mountain, folks listening, it's 2 different parks if you're not aware.
Oh, but keep going, because that is far from the biggest faux pas.
Oh yeah, the best part. So the characters sleep. They don't have the hotel, as we mentioned, so they're waking up in Splash Mountain in the seats. And
again, terrible security.
Terrible security, yes. The security sweep at the end of the night apparently didn't check Splash Mountain, whatever. And then there's the comment that Sean makes where he goes, where are we going to find a shower? Well, if you're on Splash Mountain, Derek, where are you going to find a shower?
It's right there built in for you.
Yeah, and it's immediate. A giant drop that the ride starts, and 2 seconds later, you are dropping down, getting splashed on Splash Mountain. Forget the animatronics. Forget the music. Forget the story. That's it.
I died, which is why I think the first time I rode Splash Mountain, I really thought it was... I seem to remember being surprised that it was such a long ride, because I'm like, yeah, it's a log flume ride. I've seen Boy Meets World. It starts, and then within seconds, you're going down the final drop. That's the ride.
Yeah, interesting. That's going to be historic very soon, right? We're losing that attraction. So, although there's no good record of it on Boy Meets World, it's just the loading area and drop. That's
True.
it.
It really is that moment. Like, we're not fast forwarding. They are sitting there. They're about to leave the log. All of a sudden it moves. They say, no! Cut to them dropping and getting soaked and getting their bath.
And really soaked. Shows that,
I didn't notice.
Wetter than... Splash Mountain's one of those rides, though. You could go on some days and get drenched and other days and not so much. They got drenched for sure. And you said like the surprise of Splash Mountain the first time you did it. I knew that there was like the whole animatronics thing and story and everything, but the thing that always surprised me about Splash Mountain is how much there is to the attraction after the drop.
Yeah.
That's always so surprising to me.
I just said this on our podcast the other day, like, how many rides do you get where one of the best scenes comes after, like, the climactic thrill part, you know?
Yeah, let's just talk theme park nerdiness for a second. My favorite is when attractions like the crap hits the fan not immediately, because so many attractions, like if you think of Indiana Jones Adventure, it's like immediately, oh, there's Mara, and I'm looking into her eyes like 2 seconds into this, and now I have to survive. Or, going to Universal. The Jurassic Park is a good example of like you're actually enjoying something for a while, although the new Jurassic World one, the crap hits the fan kind of soon.
Okay.
But like, I don't know, I love it when there's elements to it before that, the doom day, and Splash Mountain kind of has that. There's a good story to it, not only before the big drop, but also after. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I agree. It's well thought out in that way. It's very expansive. But the other thing about this that we haven't really mentioned is that when the day begins, like at park opening, does someone just hit a button and all the empty ride vehicles just go? Is that a thing?
Well, they definitely run the entire ride system empty one time through, from what I understand.
But someone has to be
there would be somebody.
That area.
Yes, exactly. So like where you see them hit the button when you're riding is where somebody would be. It's not like flip the switch, the entire park lights up, all the rides, electricity turns on, pirates go, it's suspension of disbelief is what we're going to have here. But
this is the worst offender of that.
Yes.
In this episode.
Everything about the Splash Mountain, from making it seem like it's Epcot to sleeping in it overnight to dropping 2 seconds after it starts. Bam, bam, bam. Third strike, you're out.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yep.
So yeah, there's that. Oh, now we stay in Magic Kingdom for a very brief moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw it. I think you might have been looking away. The old Tomorrowland entrance sign was there.
No, I did notice this, and I was Googling in that moment, when did Tomorrowland change? And it was 1994. That's when it got its huge renovation.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if that was on purpose, showing... There were several shots of Tomorrowland in this episode, and I wondered if that was thought out, or probably not.
I don't know. I mean, what other shots were there other than the sign of Tomorrowland?
Tomorrowland Speedway.
Oh, that's right. They showed the Speedway.
And then when they asked, I guess this was the same scene where they're asking Beast where Topanga is. That's where you see the signs. So, but you still, like, behind them could see Tomorrowland. Yes,
and because in this world of Boy Meets World, Magic Kingdom and Epcot are the same exact place, we cut from them talking to Beast right at the entrance to Tomorrowland, and running directly over to Goofy at the American Adventure and Epcot.
That's my favorite path to take, from Tomorrowland to American Adventure.
Yeah, it's, what mode of transportation did you take to that? Not quite sure, but get there quite quickly.
Yeah.
And then we see Corey, Corey's chasing down Topanga this whole episode. We get this silly, sitcom situation of Corey dressing up in silly costumes, like he's in a very Agrabah type of costume. Mm-hmm. Then we see him as an artist in France in Epcot. So these are always ridiculous. I'm always, once again, suspend your disbelief, but I'm always like, what does he have, a suitcase of costumes? What did he break backstage and grab them? What's the situation for this?
Right, and even the Moroccan costume was not Aladdin's costume, but it was just reminiscent enough of the costume to be like, are you Aladdin?
I was totally having a Full House flashback. I was like, is this Steve again? Yeah, it's Steve.
Yeah.
Steve.
But my favorite was, honestly, you skipped over Goofy, but he was wearing his patriotic wear, which I think you only see during the 4th of July, so that made me so happy to see.
Yeah, I think you're right about how often you see it. I think there was a moment, like, in time where there was a very patriotic parade, right? Like America on Parade or something, where like that was a normal costume. But these days, like, I've never in person seen him in that wardrobe.
No,
and I don't even think Disneyland has that. I think that's like a solely Walt Disney World thing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because I think Mickey, Minnie, Donald, and Goofy all have those 4th of July costumes.
Yeah, I've definitely seen pictures of them, but yeah, good catch. It's a cool costume, and, you're in the American Adventure, so dress American, yay. Then we get to your favorite place.
The Coral Reef.
Yeah, Coral Reef Restaurant in Epcot.
Favorite spoken sarcastically, I would just like to point out.
Yes, I've never eaten there. I actually don't like fish, so I wouldn't eat there. But you have very strong
No,
opinions.
I wouldn't say strong. I will say strong after the first time I ate there. I thought it was not good. We had a pretty bad experience overall. The second time I ate there was just last year, and we all came away saying, actually, that was pretty good. But I feel like this was the restaurant that those shows in the 90s always featured. Well, and so I thought this must be the cream of the crop when it comes to Disney restaurants, and it's just not.
Or they have very low reservations, and they're like, let's get these sitcoms to get people in here. Let's face it, though, it's a cool atmosphere. Like, I love aquariums. I think they're beautiful. We were just having this conversation as we went out for lunch today, but it is weird to be like, hey, look at the fish. Eat the fish. Like, it's just a weird concept.
Yeah. And it films well. I mean, to have a table right by the aquarium, that's good TV.
Yeah. I did walk through that restaurant once on, like, an Epcot behind-the-scenes tour, but I can't remember how many of the tables in there are actually like up against the aquarium.
It's funny. I would say 6 or fewer, but both times I've eaten there, we have had a table up against the glass.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, they don't seat more than 4, so if you have a bigger party, you're going to get one of the bigger booths farther back.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we end up, in that scene, of course, Corey is in the tank, scuba diving, still trying to get to Topanga, holding a sign. I don't know what the sign was made out of.
The sign? Oh, made out of. Yeah, go ahead.
But what did it say?
It said, I will chase you forever.
Right
and
after.
Of course, ironically, she's in the middle of giving a speech about how tired she is of being chased by this guy who wants to kiss her.
The guy in the Dumbo, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Andrew what? What's his name?
Keenan.
Andrew Keenan. Okay. So Corey's in the tank. Once again, I'm like, I want to swim in those tanks.
Apparently you can. Corey did. You just hop in.
Yeah, he even uncertified, unless he had his certificate, and I'm unaware of this or something. But
I don't remember that episode from
gosh.
season 2.
I really want to. Wouldn't you love to jump in those tanks?
Yeah, I will say the one line that made me laugh out loud was near the end when she said, you swim with the sharks, and he goes, Topanga, there were sharks in there?
I actually always think of that. I think Typhoon Lagoon has a place where you can like snorkel with sharks.
Yeah.
And that, it scares the crap out of me, the idea of it, but I still want to do it. I don't know. Actually,
Yeah. I agree.
Scuba diving tangent. I actually did look into like being trained to scuba because of Epcot, and I was talking to a friend who did it, and the thing that scared me was like, so if you like see a shark, you just like swim away from it really fast, right? Like up to the surface. It's like, no, your lungs will explode. I was like, what? He's like, you can't rise to the surface quickly or else your lungs will explode. What? And I was like, now I'm way more scared of my lungs exploding than I am of the shark. Like, that's terrifying.
Holy moly. And they let casual everyday guests do this?
Oh, no, you have to be certified.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you have to be a certified scuba diver to do it at Epcot. You can snorkel, I think. I think they have snorkeling that they allow.
Okay.
But, like, how scary is that?
That's terrifying.
I still want to do it. Oh, my gosh.
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd be certified, so...
But I'd be... If I saw a shark in the ocean, like, when I was getting my certificate, I think I'd be like... Swim really fast, boom, lungs explode.
Yeah, lungs explode, lose an arm. It's a tough call.
I think losing an arm would be better.
Okay.
Oh, gosh. Anyway, so then we get back, guess what? Back to the scuba tank, back with the dolphin. Another guest star. Did you happen to look up her name?
I didn't
either.
I know her character is Dana.
Yes. Dana on Step by Step. So we're staying in the TGIF family. She is not playing Dana. She's playing this other girl who, once again, backstage on top of the tanks, does not work there. She's just like, no, I just wanted to come hang out with the dolphins.
That's so true. I didn't even think about that. She was just a random character.
No, like, there's no reason that she would be there or be able to be, like, it was, she said, I don't work here. I was like, this is insane.
How old is Step by Step?
Step by Step, I think, would have been out at that time.
Okay, I didn't know if it was maybe in its first season and this was a good way to do like a crossover.
No, I don't think so. It was, that's not what I got from it, and she never said her name or anything. It was not Dana, because Dana would have been like a lot more crass.
Right, I'm sorry, you're right. Not a crossover in the typical sense. I just meant like a good promotion.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I'm not sure what that was about, but... You know, the same casting directors cast all these things, so it wouldn't surprise me.
She did have a good line, what's a Topanga? Because he's looking for her.
Yeah, that's right.
So, what's a Topanga?
What's a Topanga? And so, so they're hanging with the dolphins, having this nice little conversation, and Corey finally, he starts letting out his feelings, talking to the dolphin about them after this Dana, Dana in quote marks character walks away. And who hears everything nice he's saying?
Well, obviously it's Topanga.
Right next to him, who he doesn't see.
Right, walks right past her.
Yeah, so, suspend your disbelief once again. Fun times.
It's a sweet moment, though.
Sure. And the dolphin finally eats. Oh my gosh, he has this heartfelt conversation with the dolphin. He throws the dolphin a fish. The dolphin finally eats, so now...
that's the end of the episode, because it turns out all we cared about was this dolphin.
Exactly. And now Heidi from Tool Time no longer has to tell the sad story about the dolphin who won't eat because it's sad.
Yeah,
boom.
It's true.
Cut to black. End of episode. Credits roll.
Heidi and the dolphin get a happy ending.
Oh man, they should have ended it there. No, so now we cut to, okay, let's just have a moment. Rest in peace, Fountain of Nations, which is heavily featured.
It was the highlight of the scene. It was the backdrop.
Yeah, and we saw it earlier in the show as well. And it is, it's one of those things, we have the news now that Epcot's, some of their, updates are not happening because of all of the budget cuts due to the pandemic and all that stuff. And so it's like, Fountain of Nations, I would love to still have there. As nice as it's going to be when it's finally done, we now don't know when that will be.
Well, and now we're so used to the fact that Fountain of Nations is gone, like that's just something we've accepted.
I'm not. I haven't seen it yet without it.
But still, like, we know that it is going to be gone the next time we go.
Yeah.
Whereas back at the time this was filmed, I feel like the Fountain of Nations was so inseparable from Epcot. It was so essential.
I kind of still feel that way. I honestly don't know what I'm going to think when I see it and it's not there. I don't know. It's obviously not as iconic as Spaceship Earth or anything, but it is an iconic part of Epcot. So,
it was honestly a great choice for a backdrop for this scene.
Well, the thing that's interesting, this is the end. Of course, guess who get back together? Corey and Topanga get back together by the end of the episode. Hashtag spoiler. I hope I didn't spoil that for anybody. But they have their big kiss at this moment. And this I actually liked because normally it's always the fireworks, right? That final kiss has the firework backdrop at Cinderella Castle. And instead, this is when the Fountain of Nations, essentially erupt and do their show. And it was like, nice change of pace, I thought. And in a beautiful moment. And, it's funny because this was like just a typical 30-minute, minus commercials episode of Boy Meets World. It wasn't a 2-parter, hour-long thing. It wasn't an extra long episode. And it felt very fast. It was like, normally I feel like there's more focus on Walt Disney World, come visit us. And this didn't have that so much. It was like, no, we're only, like, there's a good probably 5 minutes of the episode that, if not more, maybe 7 minutes not at Walt Disney World. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking about a 30-minute show, 7 minutes is a ton.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It felt slightly rushed.
It did feel rushed, but I actually have to applaud them because it was really progressing the overall story of Boy Meets World Season 3. And I think it's hard to do that when you have to go to a new location. So I applaud them for giving Disney a few, moments here and there, but it still felt like a Boy Meets World episode.
Yeah, I would love to know what the writers thought, if they wanted to do this or if they were really annoyed by this.
I'm sure they're tell. Thank goodness we got through it. Let's move on.
One of them's like, as long as there's a dolphin, I want to play with a dolphin during the episode.
Epcot said, we have that.
We got that. Do any of your parks have dolphins? Yes. But not Disney MGM Studios.
Clearly, yeah. Even Magic Kingdom, like you said, barely got attention.
Oh, barely. It was moments of Cinderella Castle, the entrance to Tomorrowland, the Speedway, and Splash Mountain.
Wait a second.
What?
This was 1996.
What anniversary was it for Epic? Oh!
Was the castle being converted into a cake? Because the only time we see the castle is that faraway shot, which could have been filmed years ago.
Yeah.
And they just used this stock video.
Yeah. I don't know. That's an interesting question.
I'm pretty sure the Cake Castle debuted that summer, right before the anniversary. So I wonder if it was being turned into a cake at this point.
Interesting. By the way, can we just take a moment to talk about like the new Cinderella Castle paint and how I get like castle cake flashbacks?
Oh, yeah.
With that pink color. I'm like,
I love it.
I haven't seen it in person, so I don't know. And I get what they're going for with to me, it just looks like an Instagram photo super saturated. But I'm like, okay, let's let the sun kill it down a couple years. And
I have seen some extra saturated photos, and I'm like, I don't think you needed to do that. It's already got that covered.
But yeah, the pink color that it's got now, because like pink, right? It has like a pink hue to it. And I always just think of the birthday cake. Never go back to the birthday cake, please. We don't need it.
Yeah.
They never could. Actually, that's like a whole other thing. Sorry, another tangent. But with the current nighttime spectaculars, we can never have anything like the birthday cake again.
That's so true.
Unless they do a whole new projection show.
Yeah, but
which they wouldn't.
For one short overlay of the castle, no.
It would be 18 months, let's face it.
True.
Not that short. But like that's an interesting thing now, like with these castles or these like iconic landmarks, they can't change them too much or else it affects the projection shows.
Yeah, that's true.
So in any case, we get the big kiss at the Fountain of Nations. That's pretty much the end of Walt Disney World in that episode, but of course we have the tag at the end. I just got to mention, because this was my laugh out loud moment of the episode where, if you remember on the show, Corey has a little sister, and Corey ends up getting grounded for, what was it, a month, I think? He can only go to school and back home. And the little sister's sitting there listening, goes, he only got a month? I got more than that for saying. And then there's like bleep, 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 bleep. And I was like, what? This is a little girl. It was funny.
It was very funny because I always thought that was a very modern tool that sitcoms use where they bleeped out someone.
It is happening a lot lately.
But this was 1996 on a TGIF show.
Yeah, that was shocking and very out of character for that little girl. And she was how old maybe? 8, 6?
Yeah, 7 or 8.
It was crazy. So there was that, but there was also something else I noticed. Do you remember the souvenirs that Corey brought back for his mom and dad?
I couldn't get a good look, but he gave each of them a snow globe.
He gave each of them a snow globe, which at one time was one of the most popular souvenirs people purchased at the Disney parks. That all changed. Do you remember the years when the parade was the giant snow globes?
Yeah.
Okay, the purpose of that was to sell snow globes.
Yeah.
And guess what happened during the time that parade was running.
I'm going to guess 9/11?
9/11 happened, and now people could not travel with snow globes in their luggage because of the liquid, and they weren't allowed as carry-ons. And because of that, it changed everything for the sale of snow globes in Disney parks. You can still find them, but they're not as big as they used to be. And so I thought of that when I saw he got them snow globes on like 1996. Obviously, you know, that's 5 years before that historic day. But stupid, the weird things you think of watching this stuff.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they are going to get good money off of those collectibles, the Matthews family.
Right. Well, if the dad, if he ever gets it.
It's true.
Because
it's true.
He takes it away from him.
That's right, because he was pretty harsh on Corey, whereas Corey's mom was very glad that Corey and Topanga reunited, and for that, she got to keep her snow globe.
Yeah, so, I mean, that was pretty much Boy Meets World, beginning to end. Anything you want to add about that episode?
I do. It's actually something you brought up to me just before we started recording. You were asking about the Fountain of Nations, and I did find an answer to your question. Do you want to say what you asked?
Yeah, so I was asking, because I felt like I had heard this, but I wasn't 100% sure if the Fountain of Nations actually had water in it from all of the nations, very much how there's that, you know, classic video of Walt and a bunch of children pouring water from around the world into It's a Small World at Disneyland. And I had thought I had heard something about that with Fountain of Nations, and you have an answer.
And I looked it up, and it is true. On October 1st, opening day, delegations from countries all over the world took part in the Ceremony of International Waters, where water from their home countries was poured into the Fountain of Nations. And Disney did indeed announce back in 2019 that even though the Fountain of Nations closed, water from it has been saved, and it's going to be recycled and reintroduced into, quote, one of the new water features in the park. Didn't say which one, but it's kind of nice to know that that carries on.
I hope that Pua in the Moana water adventure thingy is like they're spitting out water from the Fountain of Nations. Yeah. That's where it's going. That's where it's going. Anyway, so, you know, that was fun. One of the better ones. I've seen a lot of these at this point.
Because Boy Meets World is so good,
I'm glad you enjoyed. You actually got a little offended at one point when I
did. You said, oh, so he's not a good actor, huh? And I said, gasp, because Ben Savage was like the everyman of my age when I was growing up. He was like, everybody wanted to be him. We would totally be his friend if we knew him in real life.
I think Ryder Strong was a stronger actor.
I don't disagree with that, but Ben Savage was a character actor, you know, like his really big facial expressions and his loud character talking and all that.
Do you remember the movie he did with his older brother, Fred Savage?
No.
Little Monsters?
Yes! Yes! Oh my goodness, they're both in that?
So Fred plays Ben's older brother in Little Monsters. Yeah.
Wow, blast from the past.
Yeah.
Also random, Ryder Strong is in a Disney movie back in the day called Summertime Switch.
Oh.
And I keep looking on Disney Plus to see if it's ever going to be there, but it's not.
Was it a decom?
I think it maybe it's made for the Wonderful World of Disney at some point. Yeah. But the rich kid ends up at like the poor kid's camp, and then the poor kid ends up at the rich kid's camp, and they switch places.
Gotcha. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, you know, that wraps up Boy Meets World, but I want to talk about something. I'm just throwing this on you because we had an adventure yesterday that, that now ties into the world of Disney, which initially it did not. Anybody who knows me knows that I am obsessed with the movie Love, Simon, and
I thought I knew this until we did what we did yesterday, and then I realized I hadn't even, like, it was the tip of the iceberg of what I knew.
I love Simon, and Love, Simon was a movie made by Fox, which now Disney owns, and then, of course, they have the spin-off series Love, Victor, which was originally made for Disney Plus, moved to Hulu, which, of course, Disney controls. So, the Simon-verse is part of Disney now. So, I've decided we're going to have a brief conversation about our adventures yesterday, because, as I mentioned, we're here in Tennessee, and we road tripped 4 hours. Derek is very patient and deals with me. Road tripped 4 hours each way to head down to Georgia, which sounds insane when you say it, but it was honestly an awesome day.
You keep saying that. It didn't feel insane to me. I was having almost as much fun as you were.
So we went on a location scout. If you don't know, Atlanta, Georgia is actually like a hotspot for shooting movies. They have really great tax incentives for Hollywood to essentially shoot movies here. And the cool thing about Love, Simon is that the story actually takes place in Atlanta, so shooting here totally made sense. It's not pretending to be Philadelphia or something. And we hit up a bunch of different random places, including the Waffle House in the movie, the high school, Simon's home, the park where they have the carnival scene, and
the dancing goats,
the dancing goats coffee bar. Oh my gosh. And we watched Love, Simon the night before, which...
Yeah, I hadn't seen it in a while, so I'm glad we did that to refresh my memory. And it was really cool seeing the sights because I don't think this is always the case, but every single place, immediately when I saw it, I'm like, oh, that is totally the same place as the movie because it looks exactly the same.
Yeah, and it was a fun, nerdy adventure, and I loved every minute of it, so thank you.
You are so welcome. High five to that.
Yes.
And it's so funny to me, you being an LA guy.
I know. Here's the thing. Like, I have always been obsessed with, like, I love the entertainment industry, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things about your favorite movies is, like, you want to live inside of them. You want to be friends with these characters and stuff. So I've always been that kid. Like, even when I was growing up in Massachusetts, like, finding places where they shot my favorite things. And I can remember going to Universal Studios Hollywood for the first time and taking that studio tour and being like, oh my gosh, Back to the Future was shot right here. But it's true. I live in Los Angeles. I have movie sets all around me. Like, I kid you not, there was a night I was watching Superstore on NBC, great show, sitcom, and I'm watching a scene and I look at my roommate and I'm like, hit pause. And he hits pause. I get up, look out the window, and across the street is exactly, like, out my window is where that scene had been shot.
No.
I was like, yep, that's what I thought. That looked familiar. So, like, it's always around me.
Right, which I thought would make you jaded.
Totally, but when you're talking about, like, my favorite things, I'm like, I love it. And I love Simon. It's so, so good. And if you haven't seen it yet, it is, what's it on? It might be on Hulu? I don't even know.
We couldn't find it anywhere. I had to
that's right. You had to buy it. That's right. So Love, Simon needs to get on Disney Plus soon, is what I'll say.
I agree.
We need to make that happen.
At the very least, Hulu. If you're going to put Love Victor on Hulu, put Love Simon on
there must be some contractual thing at the moment. But it's amazing. It was an amazing day. I loved it. Folks, if you're listening and you happen to be heading to the Atlanta area and you are a Love, Simon fan, I would say do this. It was a blast. It's a bit of driving around, but not too horribly far apart.
No, not at all. Yeah.
So if you want to know the addresses of these locations from Love, Simon, please feel free to shoot me an email at disneycoasttocoast@gmail.com and ask me. I'll be happy to send them to you because we had a nerdy, awesome day.
It was fun.
And I loved every second of it. Anything else you want to add before we get to some trivia?
No, I'm all set. Thanks for letting me watch Boy Meets World with you.
Absolutely.
So fun.
Next time, if you want to do a segment on Disney Coast to Coast, you ask me. You do not wait for...
I mean, I've already peaked now because we got to watch the episode together.
And then moments later, record this episode in your closet.
I know. It doesn't get better than this, folks.
All right, let's get to some trivia.
Do you know the answer? Get your brain gears churning and play along. It's trivia time.
Alrighty, Derek, do you want to hit me with a trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
I'll hit you. Okay, so I talked about how Tomorrowland got a huge overhaul in 1994, which is when Tomorrowland Speedway took on mostly what it's called now.
Oh, gosh.
Do you know what Tomorrowland Speedway was called between opening day at Magic Kingdom and 1994?
The Autopia Speedway?
No.
No?
No.
I don't know.
So, Autopia is the name of the Disneyland attraction because it's supposed to be like a futuristic roadway. But the theme at Walt Disney World was always supposed to be a car race, which I think is kind of lame.
What does that have to do with Tomorrowland?
Thank you.
Okay.
But its name for those 2 decades was the Grand Prix Raceway.
That sounds familiar, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't remember it till I saw it online. And then, like I said, in 1994, it got a new name, and then in 2008, it became Tomorrowland Speedway.
Oh.
In 1994, it was Tomorrowland blank Speedway because it was named after an actual famous speedway that exists. Do you know what that middle word would have been?
Oh my gosh, the Tomorrowland blank Speedway. The Tomorrowland Anaheim Speedway. No. What?
The Tomorrowland Indy Speedway. For 14 years, it was called that.
That's so weird.
I agree.
Like, why? That's just bizarre.
Yeah. Go put that over at ESPN Wide World of Sports.
Totally. Actually, that's not a bad idea. We always talk about, hey, get rid of Speedway. It takes up so much space, but there are so many people who, it's iconic for them as much as Dumbo might be. I like that idea, though. Rip it up. And did you know that Midget Autopia, I believe that was the official name of it, from Disneyland, is actually in Marceline, Missouri now?
Yeah, my co-host told me that because he's been.
Yeah, and it was like donated by Walt. I think by Walt. Might have been later, but it was donated to the city of Marceline, and they set it up there, which is kind of cool. My trivia question for you is really kind of random and kind of unfair, but super interesting.
Okay.
So I'm going to give it to you.
I'm here for it.
So Mr. Feeney, very famous character in Boy Meets World, played by an actor named William Daniels. Now, William Daniels, in a movie, plays a historic character that he played it in a movie musical. And this character is portrayed as an audio animatronic figure in Walt Disney World. Where can you find this animatronic figure?
Is it a president?
Perhaps it is.
Okay. Is it George Washington?
It's not George Washington. He was the first president. Who was the second president?
John Adams.
John Adams. He plays John Adams in a movie musical called...
Oh, gosh. 1776?
1776.
I didn't know they made a movie of that.
Oh, yes. It's from like the 1972, I think.
Okay.
It's an older one. And you know, William Daniels, a.k.a. Mr. Feeney, plays John Adams in that. And John Adams, of course, being a president, is in the Hall of Presidents in Magic Kingdom.
Wow.
Right?
Is he good in it?
Yeah, he's good. Yeah.
He's a treasure. I mean, Mr. Feeney as a character is a gem.
Our generation definitely knows him as that. And I do remember seeing 1776 for the first time and being like, it's Mr. Feeney. Like, he still has that voice. He has an interesting, like, timbre in his voice. Is that the right word? Timbre in his voice. And it's, it's recognizable. And so when I heard it in 1776, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Mr. Feeney. And this is how my brain works. I see Mr. Feeney on Boy Meets World, see that it's a Walt Disney World episode, and I think 1776, John Adams, Hall of Presidents.
Well, you know what? That sucks, because Mr. Feeney didn't even get to go to Walt Disney World.
It's true, but it's a good trivia question.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I'll have to actually add that to my list of movies.
Your ever-growing list of movies.
It's so long. It's because of Jeff.
Well, Derek, thank you so much for coming on to talk about Boy Meets World. Why don't you let folks know where they can hear more from you?
Absolutely. We are a podcast called The Mad Chatters. We release a show every other week, and we talk about the Disney parks and all things Disney. We just released an episode about Splash Mountain and all sorts of fun stuff. You can find us.
It must have been a short episode because, like, you just go and drop on that one.
Exactly. Yeah, that was pretty much the extent of the episode. You get a nice bath. Yeah, so you can find us where you find your podcast. You can find us on Instagram and all the other stuff too. If you want to find me personally, I'm Derek N. Lewis on Instagram and Derek Lou on Twitter. Thank you, Jeff. This was fun.
Thank you. This is awesome. And folks, if you haven't listened to this past Wednesday's episode of Disney Coast to Coast, be sure to check it out as we discuss the Disneyland 30th and 35th anniversary TV specials. And on this upcoming Wednesday's episode, we take a look at a new book that enhances your visit to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. The easiest way to make sure you don't miss any of the magic is by subscribing to Disney Coast to Coast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Wherever you search, don't forget, it's Disney with a Z, Coast to Coast. And of course, if you'd like bonus content from Disney Coast to Coast, head on over to patreon.com/DisneyCTC. This episode is now over, so now is the perfect time. Before you go off and do anything else, open your web browser and visit patreon.com/DIZNEYCTC. There you'll gain bonuses and ensure more free future episodes of Disney Coast to Coast. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.